During that, because I have been. For President Trump, it's getting up early and getting back on Twitter, declaring, quote, "Our great country is respected again in Asia." Also complaining he was forced to watch CNN while overseas, and also fishing for compliments for intervening on behalf of arrested college basketball players in China. But what about that promised, quote unquote, major announcement upon his return? No word yet, but it's not like he doesn't wake up to a full plate today. Let's get over to the White House and senior White House correspondent Jeff Zeleny. Hey there, Jeff. What's going on over there today?
Good morning, Kate. There's no question the president is getting back engaged in all the workings of Washington, and a lot of that is happening up on Capitol Hill. I am told the president is becoming, he's getting up to speed through conversations with leaders and others about what is happening with the tax bill, first and foremost on the Senate. He's planning to become more deeply engaged on the House vote when they have that tomorrow. But we are also anticipating, at least the president's aides are planning for a potential announcement, a speech this afternoon. The president wants to talk about his accomplishments. He had said earlier in the week when he was in the Philippines that he would give a speech here on Wednesday. Then he said it could happen on Thursday. I'm told aides are still expecting for it potentially to be this afternoon to talk about what he sees as accomplishments from the trip. But Kate, there's no question about it that the Alabama Senate race is weighing heavily over this White House because it affects the math of how many Republicans could be in the Senate. So watch for the president to potentially engage on Roy Moore. I am told he is waiting to see sort of how this goes. He's waiting to see if he stays in the race or not. But he's not going to weigh in initially. But he is weighing in on something else, as you said, on that basketball situation from China. Let's take a look at that message he sent out just a short time ago. Again, he said, "Do you think that 3 UCLA basketball players will say thank you, President Trump? They were headed for 10 years in jail." Of course, this is for the 3 basketball players who were arrested in Beijing, or in China, excuse me, last week for allegedly stealing sunglasses. The president had a conversation with Chinese President Xi Jinping over this, and they were released overnight. Interesting that the president decided to send out this message here, sort of looking for thanks on this. But he did that, but we're still waiting for what he has to say on his trip, and more importantly, if he weighs in on Roy Moore. Kate.
I find that fascinating that he might wait and not be weighing in right away upon his return on Roy Moore, because this has been blowing up since he's been away. And he said no problem weighing in on other domestic issues. But waiting on this one, even at past today, I find fascinating.
We'll see.
We will. Exactly right. The only thing we can say. Great to see you, Jeff. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Joining me now, Republican Congressman Adam Kinzinger of Illinois, a member of the Foreign Affairs Committee. Great to see you, Congressman.
You too. Thanks.
So the president's back in town. Where do you see signs that he made big progress? Where do you see signs of success from his trip?
So this is what's always interesting to me. So I don't know yet. I think he's going to make announcements. We'll see when it's all kind of the after. But I've never seen a president come back unless it's like, you know, Ronald Reagan meeting with Gorbachev, where they come back with some massive signed agreement and massive success in hand. Really, a presidential trip is all about making the statement that we're engaged and we're focused. Where I think the president did himself some real good in Asia was just the fact that, you know, I feel, and you talk to, frankly, my friends on the other side of the aisle here on the Hill, when President Obama did the pivot away from the Middle East to Asia, he never actually really pivoted to Asia. So I think by the president being there, it sent a very strong message: unify our allies against our adversaries like North Korea. And we'll see if there's any trade news to come out. That'll be to him to announce. I don't know.
And a lot of things with Obama on that pivot to Asia got in the way. Like what happened in the world at the moment.
Yeah,
Let me ask you on
tax.
That's exactly right. On taxes, do you support, Congressman, right now adding the repeal of the individual mandate to tax reform as they're doing in the Senate?
I don't want to see it because I think it muddies the water. I think we should do tax reform as pure tax reform. This throws health care into it. I'm not saying I'd vote against it if it came out of the conference bill. Ours doesn't have it in. I'm not actually convinced it's going to get out of the Senate with this mandate repeal in it.
What do you hear?
Well, I mean, you look at what you've seen in the past. You've seen, you know, a number of senators that have voted against basically the skinny repeal, which was basically this thing. So I'm not sure if it has the votes. I don't know. I'm not in the Senate. Maybe it does. But that'll be interesting. So when that ends up going to conference with our bill, which doesn't have the repeal, we'll see what comes out. I think it muddies the water a little too much, but I'm not going to tank tax reform for it. And I also still want to repeal Obamacare. I just think, you know, obviously we failed at that for about 10 months.
Do you think if it's added, though, and if you would vote for it in the end, because it's not like you're anti getting it in, does this hurt your chances, though, in following through, though, on the actual promise of repealing and replacing Obamacare eventually?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've basically failed at that anyway. We did our best to get it done. It came very close in the Senate, couldn't get it done. And I think what we risk as a party is, frankly, making this the issue continually going forward. I've said, while I still want to repeal and replace this bill, at the same time, there's real people out there hurting, and and Obamacare is actually failing. So we need to do what we can to make sure that people's lives are not really harmed in this process.
Well, let's talk about whose lives are impacted by the tax bill writ large. This is supposed to be a middle-class tax bill. One big selling point has been that the cuts to corporate taxes will benefit workers because the companies will reinvest that extra cash. At a Wall Street Journal event yesterday, a group of CEOs were asked exactly what this means for them. Listen to this.